are again.
Yes, we are.
Everybody, welcome to the Scary Dad Podcast. This is a very special episode. It's a 23.5 meta episode entitled Jack the Ripper.
And we're not talking about the LL Cool J song.
Now, you see, we just did a show about serial killers, and there was two notable absents from the docket there. One of them was Zodiac.
Yeah.
And one of them was Jack the Ripper. Now, I think just through oversight, we didn't mention this in the original episode, but these two are so steeped in mystery and pop culture, they were never caught.
Right.
A lot of the all of the ones that we talked about, I believe, were caught, convicted, tried. They at least they knew who they were. Jack the Ripper and Zodiac are two pretty significant entries that they never got caught.
You know, Jack the Ripper, what's weird is, as a child, I remember hearing about Jack the Ripper a lot. Everybody knew who Jack the Ripper was. He doesn't seem to be spoken about as much as it used to be. It's almost as though, current reality is scarier than anything Jack the Ripper ever came up with. But yeah, it was when I was coming up, Jack the Ripper was a very, very well-known thing.
Yeah. I think his pop culture has just played so much with his story that nobody really knows what's true.
Right.
And I think a lot of people might think that they know what's true. It's kind of an interesting throwback. So a few years ago, I read a review of The Legend of Sleepy Hollow by Washington Irving. And the reviewer pointed out that she had actually never, until just recently, she had never actually read the book itself. That all of what she had thought of the story of the Headless Horseman and Legend of Sleepy Hollow came from an amalgam of different stories, like Disney's Ichabod and the Sleepy Hollow movie and different stuff, but that she had never actually read the book, the story from beginning to end. So I took that as you might be right. So I went ahead and I read that story myself, and so there's an entire set of source material that I think a lot of people skip over, and then they get filled in by references and pop culture and CSI type stuff. So,
but just an example of how entrenched in pop culture Jack the Ripper is. You don't see comic books about Jeffrey Dahmer or Ted Bundy or anything.
Right.
There are comic books about Jack the Ripper. It's just how much the mysticism of it just captured everybody,
Well, and, From Hell, which was an Alan Moore story, is pretty significant in the genre as a game changer as far as comic books and storytelling, graphic novels and serious content in a previously unserious medium. Mm-hmm. So, what do we know about Jack the Ripper? The answer is we don't know a whole lot, even up till now. He's historically known as he was never caught. He committed murders against prostitutes in the Whitechapel section of London in 1888. Wasn't active for very long. There's only 5 victims that are attributed directly to Jack, although there was other Whitechapel murders. But what makes Jack the Ripper special, as opposed to just, let's be honest, the dead hooker in a trunk is a trope. It's not as if dead hookers are so uncommon as to be made legendary.
Right.
But that was what Jack did, was he attacked and killed prostitutes. And the murders themselves were particularly brutal. And he taunted the press.
Yeah, he
taunted
was
the
one of the
police.
ones that taunted people. It's as though he was doing it for the attention.
Right. And so he'd send letters, and
one of them included an organ, a kidney that was so said from one of the victims.
So the 5 victims that that are attributed directly to him would be Marianne Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, and Mary Jane Kelly. They're known as the Canonical Five. And he was active between August 31st and November 9th of 1888. So, as opposed to a lot of the serial killers that we talked about who were active for a long time, even if they only killed a few people, they were still active for like 10, 15, 20 years. Jack was only active for a couple of months in the fall of 1888 and then dropped off the face of the earth, disappeared completely. And up to this day, it's unsolved.
Right. Including the other two murders that happened at the same time period. Those are also unsolved, too.
Right.
So they've just never been attributed to actually Jack the Ripper. And those were Emma Smith and Martha Tabram.
Mm-hmm. So, in a world where we're so imbued with things, the concept of forensic science and, CSI and DNA and just so many different things, you wonder how can it be possible that you can kill so many people so thoroughly, brutally
in a short period of time
in such a small area. It was like a district of a town. But it points out here that there was so many like Jewish, Russian, Eastern Europe refugees coming into to London at the time, and Whitechapel was kind of a slum. So you had a whole lot of people who didn't have any kind of official identity. There was a lot of robbery, a lot of violence. Just finding dead people in the river was not an uncommon occurrence.
Where it was the area where prostitutes hung out. So.
Right. So there was enough. There was enough of an atmosphere of this was just the perfect place for this to happen. Where if you were going to do it and get away with it, this was a place that it could happen.
Right.
Let's see here. Most opinions vary if the other two were Jack the Ripper, but a lot of they fit the same MO basically. Mm-hmm. So there was either Jack or a copycat.
Right. Yeah, I think there's up to it's like 20 women total that they have that they think may be related to it altogether, including the 5.
I don't know. Do you want to go into the cause of death? The kind of stuff that that Jack did? I mean...
Well, we know 3 of the victims that's attributed to him, he actually removed organs from them. And that's why some people thought that it may have been a physician or someone that knew, had a good knowledge of the human anatomy, because he was pulling out certain body parts and everything, and internal organs.
So, Marianne Nichols was discovered on Friday, August 31st, 1888. Her throat was severed by 2 cuts, and the lower part of the abdomen was partially ripped open by a deep, jagged wound. Several other incisions on the abdomen were caused by the same knife. Annie Chapman was discovered on the 8th of September, so just not even 2 weeks later.
Right.
Just like Marianne Nichols, her throat was cut and the abdomen was slashed, and it was later discovered that the uterus had been removed. One witness described seeing Chapman at about 5:30 a.m. with a dark-haired man of shabby, genteel appearance. So that kind of gave the rise to where maybe he was a gentleman. He was not.
Right.
He was not from there. He traveled. He was I don't want to say like a higher up, but he was not a resident of Whitechapel.
Yeah.
Stride and Eddowes were both killed the same day on the 30th of September. Stride's body was one clear-cut incision, which severed the main artery on the left side of the neck. The absence of mutilation has led to uncertainty about whether Stride's murder should be attributed to the Ripper or whether he was interrupted during the attack. And then looks like he might have just gotten interrupted, so he went he went out and caught himself another one and took out Eddowes. My bad. And Edo's body was mutilated, and pieces and parts were removed.
Yes.
And there was graffiti written in blood on the wall above her.
Yeah, and I got a picture of Edo's body post-mortem right here, and he cut her. You know, imagine the scene from the Clint Eastwood Western. What was it? The last one that he made? Damn it!
Unforgiven.
Unforgiven. Where they cut the prostitute's face, it was very similar in that. In the way he just cut her up. And whether that was after she had died or while he was killing her, I don't know. But he definitely left his mark on her.
The final of the 5, Mary Kelly, she was in a room at her home. The throat had been severed down to the spine, the abdomen almost emptied of its organs, and the heart was missing. So, we talked about it before, like, how can you be just so messed up in the head that this is something that you go out and do? It's probably pretty easy to, I mean, even as a copycat, you're not going to get that brutal. I mean, these all follow a pretty serious pattern of someone who either has a significant hatred towards women themselves or prostitutes themselves or something else that's just driving that murderous...
Yeah, that bloodlust. Because when you're killing people you don't know, you're killing to kill. You know, there's something motivating you behind that. You know, it's especially just that many people in that short of a period of time from similar circumstances. And I don't know why they... I would pretty much attribute the rest of the majority of those murders that happened during that time to him as well. You know, just to limit to 5 because they're the most similar.
True. You never know, because what causes somebody like that to stop?
Right.
We talked about the difference between a healthy mind and a sick mind, and how if somebody turns up the heat, you know, if you start feeling as if you might get caught, you might dial it back.
Right.
Maybe move to a different town.
Or if you've gotten away with it, you may stop.
Right.
And not start again.
If he was part of upper crust and gentlemanly society, he may have just not had any more opportunities. He may have gotten hit by a cart and killed. Mm-hmm. You know, there's a lot of reasons why somebody stops. I mean, there's a lot of unfinished artwork in certain artists' portfolios that they just never got around to finishing because they got sick or they died or they quit.
Right.
I'm not saying that murder is art, but if you're doing something repeatedly over and over again and you're doing it a certain and specialized way that's different from everything else, and then it just stops, there was a reason for that.
Yeah.
Maybe he found Jesus. I don't know.
Or maybe as one person believes that he was being protected by society itself, and they went ahead and realized he was doing it and got him to stop so they can go ahead and...
That's true. There was a lot of protectionism back in the days.
Yeah.
Let's see. Over the course of the Ripper murders, the police, newspapers, and others received hundreds of letters regarding the case. Some were well-intentioned offers of advice for catching the killer, but a lot of them were useless. Hundreds of letters claimed to have been written by the killer himself, and 3 of these in particular were prominent. Dear Boss, the Saucy Jackie, and the From Hell letter.
The From Hell was the first one, wasn't it, if I'm not mistaken?
Let's see. The Dear Boss letter was the first one.
Oh, the Dear Boss was, okay.
Came out September 27th, 1888. It was considered a hoax, but when the body of Edo's was found 3 days later, with one ear partially cut off, the letters promised to clip the lady's ears off gained attention. However, Edo's ear appears to have been nicked by the killer accidentally during the attack, rather than as an intentional thing. The name Jack the Ripper was used in this letter by whoever signed it and gained worldwide notoriety after the publication.
Yes, I got the copy of it right here.
Why don't you read it to us?
Oh, no, it's backwards. It's actually a photocopy of the actual letter itself. So.
I'm looking to see if there was actual prints of the... No. Yep, I don't have copies of the letters.
Yeah, the ones I have are
themselves.
reverse images because it's looking at a watermark that is left in the paper itself. So
Okay. Saucy Jackie came October 1st, 1888, so just 4 days later. This was received on the same day. The handwriting was similar to the Dear Boss, and it mentions that 2 victims were killed very close to one another, double event this time, which was thought to refer to the murders of Stride and Eddowes. It's been argued that the letter was mailed before the murders were publicized, making it unlikely that Crank would have had such knowledge of the crime. But it was postmarked more than 24 hours after the killings took place, long after the details were known and being published by journalists and talked about by residents.
okay,
So it could have been a fake.
I actually have the letter right here.
Okay?
Okay, it's a long one. Okay, dear boss, keep on hearing from the police. Keep on hearing the police have caught me, but they won't fix me just yet. I have laughed when they look so clever and talk about being on the right track. That joke about Leather Apron gave me real fits because that was one of the names they gave him initially. One of the two other names that they had given him. I am down on whores and I shan't quit ripping them until I do get buckled. I'm assuming he means caught. Language of the time. Grand work the last job was. I gave the lady no time to squeal. How can they catch me now? I love my work and want to start again. You will soon hear of me with my funny little games. I saved some of the proper red stuff in a ginger beer bottle over the last job to write with, but it went thick like glue and he can't use it. I guess he was going to use the blood from the victim itself to write a letter. That's psychotic. Red ink is fit enough, I hope. Haha. The next job I do, I shall clip the lady's ears off and send to the police. Send to the police officers just for jolly, wouldn't you? Keep this letter back till I do a bit more work, then give it out straight. My knife's so nice and sharp, I want to get to work right away if I get the chance. Good luck, yours truly, Jack the Ripper. And P.S. Don't mind me giving the trade name. Wasn't good enough to post this before I got all the red ink off my hands. Curse it, no luck yet. They say I'm a doctor now, haha. So that was, as they were coming out with theories, he was obviously watching everything. And
He was playing with them.
yeah.
So then, if you want to pull up the Saucy Jackie.
Yeah, we could do that.
And then, look up From Hell.
There's actually a website, jacktheripper.org. Okay, so the Saucy Jackie postcard. That one reads, I was not codding dear old boss when I gave you the tip. You'll hear about Saucy Jackie's work tomorrow. Double event this time. Number 1, squealed a bit. Couldn't finish straight off. Had not got time to get ears off for police. Thanks for keeping last letter back till I got to work again. Jack the Ripper. That was on a postcard. That one actually wasn't on a letter, which is interesting because, we're going to talk in a little bit about the watermarks that were left on the letters, and the first one apparently was the only one that had the watermark. And the third letter was called what?
From Hell.
From Hell. Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true. And the From Hell letter. Let's see. Where is the text of it? There we go. I write you a letter in black ink because I have no more of the right stuff. So apparently he hadn't killed anybody in a while. I think you're all asleep in Scotland Yard with your bloodhounds, as I will show you tomorrow night, Saturday. I am going to do a double event, but not in Whitechapel. Got rather too warm there. Had to shift. No more till you hear me again. Jack the Ripper. So that was his signal that the heat was coming on him in Whitechapel. He was ready to go ahead and move on to elsewhere.
The From Hell letter was received on 16th of October, 1888. It says the handwriting and style is unlike that of Dear Boss and Saucy Jackie, but it came with a small box. Inside was half a kidney preserved in ethanol. Eddowes' left kidney had been removed by the killer. The writer claimed that he fried and ate the missing kidney half. There is disagreement over the kidney. Some contend that it belonged to Eddowes, while others argue that it was nothing more than a bad practical joke. The kidney was examined by Dr. Openshaw of the London Hospital, who determined that it was human and from the left side, but could not determine that any other biological characteristics. Openshaw also received a letter signed Jack the Ripper. There's a whole lot of conjecture that the letters themselves were written by journalists trying to
drum up
sales.
audience. Yeah.
Interesting and funny. I read, I believe it was not Patricia Cornwell. It was the guy who wrote Zodiac. There's a.
I've seen interviews with him. I'm trying to remember who he was. His name was. There's
a full book, true crime novel about Zodiac. And the guy who wrote Zodiac also wrote a story about this murder that happened in San Francisco, like in the early 1900s. And he was positing that Jack the Ripper had just left London and come to the States because it was so much more sparsely populated.
Right.
He could kind of
hide out,
and he could just go places and whatever. And that he had settled in San Francisco. But in this particular story, it was talking about how the newspapers, it was William Randolph Hearst, and how at that time newspapers, they had 3 editions. They had the early, the middle, and the late edition. And they had callers on the street, and basically as crazy and sensational as the story could be, that's what sold. It didn't have to be true.
Right.
So that's where you get certain things like with National Enquirer will say a pal or a friend or a source. That source that tells me that Brad Pitt is getting a divorce could be Scott sitting right here. And I could say, Scott, how do you know? And he could say, well, I'm not allowed to really say.
Yeah, undisclosed source.
And I could go and just publish it, and it doesn't have to be true. Hey, I don't know. I have a source that told me. And there was a whole lot of that with that sensational newspaper stuff going on back in the day, and it happened in London as well. So it's very, very likely that the Ripper got away because we had journalists stepping all over the dicks of the police
making
officers.
the story, yeah.
And the police officers were chasing leads that led them to nothing. While this other dude's running around slashing up chicks in the ghetto. So, but speaking of Patricia Cornwell,
yes,
the reason we saved Jack for this special episode here is because Scott ran across an article and I read a book.
Yeah, she wrote a book a while back, and apparently it's coming to light again because she feels as though she's got the final conclusive evidence of this lady by the name of Patricia Cornwell, who I think she lives in New York, if I'm not mistaken, New York City.
She's a very famous crime novelist.
Yes, and she's made a lot of money writing books, and with the lot of money that she's made, she's spent a lot of money researching Jack the Ripper and trying to solve the case herself. And she feels as though she has solved the case. And I printed out a little bit of the evidence that she uses. She spent $7 million of her own money so far researching this and working with forensic scientists with different things, trying to pin down the murderer that was Jack the Ripper. And in her opinion, she has the case closed at this point. And it is an artist by the name of Walter Sickert, who apparently was a very famous artist. He actually has one painting he's done of Winston Churchill that actually hangs in one of the government buildings in England. Walter Sickert, he was an artist, died in 1942 at the age of 81. She feels he's involved with all 15 murders, all 20 murders, everything that spanned it in the late 1880s. He was born in Germany, but he settled in England with his family at the age of 6. He married 3 times, and it doesn't say anything about any children or anything that he's had. But she feels as though because he was a prominent artist who was well known in the community and established, did work for a lot of wealthy people, that he was kind of protected. And she says that every time she came forward or to light with some of her evidence, it was kind of pushed back, and people didn't want to hear it because they wanted this guy to be safe and sound. And even to this day, the art community doesn't want any kind of mud thrown, and so she's still kind of just dismissed by those folks. But she has some interesting evidence that she puts through, and this is one of the things she points out is some of the paintings this guy did after all the murders had occurred. have a striking resemblance to the actual crime scene photos from some of the killings. And you can see this one. This is Catherine Eddowes. And she points out the fact that just the face is very distorted in a very similar fashion to Catherine Eddowes. Real shadowy, dark. And you can see from these. We'll link this article on the website so you guys can check out and see some of the pictures for yourself. But you can see these two are very similar. And then another painting that he did.
Yeah, everything. The name of the book is called Jack the Ripper Case Closed.
Right. And
I read the books probably about 15 years ago, maybe a little bit longer. And the book is extremely interesting because it lays out in so much more detail than what we're talking about, the entire case.
Yes.
From top to bottom, and the social and the economic and the political and everything that was going on in England at the time, and the class differences and the way the world was changing with it was becoming global society. It was moving out of agriculturalism and into industrialism and blah 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 blah, and just all the way down the line. And she's got her rogues gallery of all these different people who were connected in one way or another. Right. And as you're reading the book, she mentions him and a certain thing with, like, he was extremely staunch, and he was very proper, and he was very quick to anger.
Yeah.
And he was just, he had a way about him that was very dark and very antisocial compared to his contemporaries and his friends.
So something was going on there.
Yeah, and he was actually looked at, like the police actually looked at him, and he was completely not related to any of it, but they were led to him a couple of different times in a couple of different ways, but he always managed to get away from it.
Well, one of the things that she points out in here is that he was protected. You know, he had all these alibis that, you know, he claimed that he wasn't around at that time, but she actually went and found guest registries for hotels and boarding houses in the area that shows that he was in the area at those times. Mm-hmm. The police never checked that kind of stuff out. They just took people's word for it whenever they said that he wasn't around. This is another crime scene photo of Mary Kelly on her deathbed, and you can see from these two pictures, it's very similar. Head thrown back. She feels as though the tight necklace around the neck is symbolic of the actual gash in her neck where she was cut and killed. Now, this is the evidence that, well, not this one, actually, the next, but she points out some of the letters, some of the doodling that was added to some of the letters was very similar in style to letters that he had penned himself. The one that I found the most interesting is she claims that some of these letters one of the letters contained a watermark, which was a very, very small run of paper. She's saying that through her research, she has discovered that this particular paper with this watermark only had a run of 24 sheets of paper. That's a pretty small run. You know, it's kind of hard to avoid that. And you can see the NEY right here at the end of this watermark matches very well with the one at the end of this watermark right here.
So he wrote a letter.
And this is the Dear Boss letter right here.
And that's his.
That's his letter that he sent to someone. That's actually one of his with the doodles on it and everything. And this is the one that was received by authorities from the Dear Boss letter. And you can see those two. The watermarks are
right.
You can't deny the fact that they're very similar. And this was from the same person. And then, like I said, also the guest books that she went through, showing that he was in the areas when he. The thing about it is, if it shows that he was in the areas and he was saying that he was in the areas, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But the fact that he was denying being there, yet it was proven that he was, what's he lying about? You know, Why is he lying about being there? That's the big part of that one. So yeah.
I guess it's the late 19th century equivalent of clearing your browser history. You're like, no way, I wasn't on those websites. Whoa. And then I go back and they're like,
no. Another one that she's found is there's a gentleman by the name of Joseph Gorman who claims that he is Sickard's illegitimate child, that he was born out of wedlock, but Sickard was his father. And he has confessed details of the murders to people that he claims that his father told him about, that his father did confess to killing everyone. Well, people have essentially the people protecting him have denied that he's actually his son. They're still saying that he's a fool and everything, but she has found evidence showing that this gentleman receives royalty checks from this guy's artwork. If he wasn't his son, he wouldn't be receiving money or payments for the actual artwork itself. And then she also found, after Sicker was raised as a suspect, the art world rallied around to claim he had an alibi as he was in France around the time of the murders. And this was another one. She found dated sketches that placed him in London music halls. He was doing sketches of different music halls in London by commission. He was at these music halls at the time of at least 3 of the killings. So
he wasn't in France.
He wasn't in France. He was in London doing sketches for people. She says his music hall sketches are dated August, September, and November. Mary Kelly, Elizabeth Stride, and Catherine Eddowes. He was within a 24-hour striking range of each one of those murders while he was in town doing sketches. So why are they trying to cover up for him? It's obvious. Like I said, if the fact that they're lying about it and she's finding evidence is one thing. If she's finding evidence to prove something they're saying is correct, then that's not that big of a deal. But
see, that's so strange, the protectionism in that world even now.
Right.
I mean, if you've got evidence that it's him, why would you continue to protect him?
Right.
You would not to say that you'd be like, okay, fine, sure, he's the killer, but you wouldn't be like, no, let me make up stories as to why. You know, when you've got somebody at Patricia Cornwell's stature spending all this money to come in and be, you know, it kind of feels like that Maury Povich, where it's like, well, I've got, you know, boarding house stuff. They're like, nope. It's like, sorry, this looks like you're the father.
It was. I mean, and I'm sure one of the reasons she's so just tenacious about it is, you know, basically calling her a liar and saying that what she's finding out is not true.
Well, tenacious about it because, well, first of all, if she does manage to break this, then she's the only person in 120 years to be able to do so.
Right.
She's also a crime novelist and a forensic pathologist. So, just as a matter of course, I mean, if you were able to put your, I mean, with money aside, she spent $7 million.
Right.
She's not doing it for charity.
But the thing about it is, unless she's, you know, part of the prosecutor's office or a cop, it doesn't matter.
Well, he's dead, so there's nothing that...
It's true. Yeah,
there's nothing that can be done other than maybe get some other people on board and posthumously prosecute.
Right.
And just say, hey, we found out who it is. Because, I mean, if you think about it, if like a Zodiac, for example, I mean, there's all kinds of theories about Zodiac, and we're going to do our own meta on Zodiac himself. But if, I don't know, like some fallout shelter in San Francisco gets excavated and they find a whole bunch of Zodiac killer paraphernalia down there, you know, and proof that John Smith was the Zodiac killer, or he's in a old folks home somewhere, they're convicting Nazis still.
But the same comparison just came to my mind.
You know, they're convicting Nazi war criminals that are like 95 years old.
Why wouldn't they, you know,
and they're chasing them all over the world.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, why wouldn't they? I mean, Jack the Ripper's, I mean...
It's a pretty big deal.
Pretty big deal. There's no possibility he's still alive, but you could at least close it. You know, close the case on it.
This is another interesting fact. There's a Sickert painting that even hangs in Scotland Yard. Depicts a frightened-looking woman with a weird band around her neck. She actually says that she had one of his paintings hanging in her library in Connecticut. And every time she walked past him, it became too much, and she had to finally just get rid of it. And take it out
she
of her
knows
house.
It's him.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. She 100%. I mean, she has spent $7 million to prove that it's him. So
I don't think she. Well, if you read that,
wasn't
book,
just her. Yeah,
she didn't spend $7 million
trying to prove who it is.
That it's him.
Right.
I think that she spent all this money and everything just keeps coming back that it is him.
Right.
Thank you for that memory, dude. I remember reading that book. It's good. You should read it.
I think I will check it out. But yeah, and this is, you're wondering why people are still trying to be kind of, you know, protected and everything. I have people who will not allow me to quote from archival sources because their ancestors said something that was incriminating about him. They just don't want any kind of, you know, darkness,
They don't want to be
or
attached to it.
any negative stuff to any of their family, ancestors, nothing. They just want everything just to go away, which isn't fair to the people that got killed. You know.
True.
She flew to London after she visited Cornwall to get some information. Immigration officers in London said they entered the country illegally, and that she never cleared customs whenever they left Cornwall, so they were kicked out of the country again. She's hit a lot of obstacles and roadblocks trying to solve this. I mean, it's obvious that something is... Just people want it to go away. They just want to leave it the way it is right now. You know, as a mysterious part of culture.
That's just beyond me. But, you know, no telling what kind of atrocities have been just swept under the rug by British, or not even British, but just high society.
Well, I was going to say, you never know, you know, it may have, you know, while the 5 murders have been, you know, attributed to the one man, it may have been a group of people committing all those murders, and they're protecting each other. You know, it may have been one of those weird,
I doubt it.
Hostile type things.
That's the problem that you have whenever you have, like, when you have groups, and you see it in the movies all the time, the groups break down.
Yeah.
Somebody breaks, somebody tells, somebody gets caught, and, you know, something happens, whether it's accidentally or on purpose or whatever. Something like that has to be one person, or maybe 2. Like we talked about those husband and wife serial killers that killed lots of people together.
Right.
But you can kind of...
Well, see, I would think it'd be
you
more
can regulate
of a thing.
a couple. You can't regulate... Once the third person's involved, that...
I would think it'd be more of a thing where it's not really a group of people doing it, but it's more than one, not at the same time. You know, one does it for a while, then another one comes in and takes over, that kind of thing. It's always possible. I mean, you never know what goes on behind. Ever since they found that damn room at the Hotel Zaza.
Tell me about that.
You never heard about that?
I don't think I heard about that.
We're going to have a little short episode about that and just weird things. No, that won't fit the Supernatural episode, but this guy checked in. This was on Reddit. This guy checked into the Hotel Zaza, and they gave him this room. And he walked in the room and immediately realized something's weird about this room. There was a brick wall in it with nothing on the wall. There was a huge portrait of a man that he had no idea who the guy was. The bed was kind of chained to the wall, and there was a 2-way mirror in it. And it was a smaller room than the rooms normally are. And he said he got in there, he took some pictures real quick. And the pictures are online, you can see them. And then shortly after he took the pictures, all of a sudden there was a knock at the door saying that he wasn't supposed to be in that room. It was the wrong room. They had to take him out and give him another one. It's like a secret room in the Hotel Zaza that... Now there's all kinds of just theories online about, you know, is this some kind of thing used by, you know, some secret society where they, like a dungeon type room. It's really weird though, man, because I've been in the Zaza, I've stayed there a couple times. They got some nice rooms, and this one does not belong in the Hotel Zaza unless it's used for something else. It was really odd. I'll pull those pictures up for you after we get through.
Yeah, that's...
just like I said, there's all kind of theories as to why this room even exists. And who the guy is. Apparently the guy put the picture of the portrait on the internet, and it's some alumnus from LSU. No connection to the hotel itself. They have no idea why his picture's up there.
Wow.
Yeah. It was just a really weird story. It came out about 3 years ago, I think.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very cool. Hadn't heard about that. Well, with that, the mystery deepens.
Yes.
We're going to go ahead and close it down. I think it was Walter Sickert.
The evidence is there to definitely look at it real hard. You know.
Read the book. That's our meta episode on notorious serial killer Jack the Ripper. Stay tuned. We're going to do a couple regular episodes, and then we're going to hit up the one of my all-time favorites is the Zodiac.
Cool.
So...
You guys take care, stay scary, and we shall talk to you soon.
Bye.